In January 2021, I got into a horrific car accident. So I was not high, but I was on my way to get high. And I was on my way to Mobile, and right before you go into the Bayway, there was a 7-car pileup. One of the trucks that were in front of me was maybe sitting idle because I didn't see their brake lights at the very last minute. So when I did, I jerked my wheel. It was a flatbed tow truck. The back right end of the flatbed tow truck came through my windshield and popped me right here in the face. So I had nothing but titanium.
It crushed your face,
Yes,
from what I understand.
It obliterated my orbital rim, my cheekbone, my nose, and my top mandible were free floating.
Let's be honest about recovery.
The rewards, the challenges.
Let's talk about our failures. We are flawed people, after all.
Let's challenge the stigmas that weigh us down.
Because while most of us are looked at,
few of us are seen.
Let's talk about addiction.
And how Christ overcomes our weaknesses.
Because we are loved.
Because we are loved.
Because we are loved.
We are loved.
We are
Because
loved.
we are loved.
Hi, my name is Kristyn, and this is my story of how I went from a happy childhood with a loving family to a 10-year opiate addiction that caused me to lose everything. I spent the last 4 years rebuilding everything that I had lost.
Hey, and welcome back to Jesus Loves Addicts. Some of you may remember several episodes back, we spoke with Star Blackman from Alabama. And today, Paul and I are going to have the privilege of getting to know her daughter, Kristyn Simmons, better. And Kristyn went through her own 10-year battle of drug addiction with opiates. All right, Kristyn, thank you so much for coming.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. So as Kathryn just mentioned, we interviewed your mom.
Right.
So how much of it, we're going to go back to where it starts, but my immediate curiosity is how much of that, your 10 years, overlapped with your mother's addiction? Was there some overlap there?
Definitely. So my mother's addiction started when I was very, very young. And then my 10-year addiction, she was in active addiction that whole time as well. We basically got sober at the same time.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Yep.
All right. Well, so we typically start at what childhood looked like, and you just gave us a preview of it. So very young age, your mom was actively using. So what was home life like?
So I was blessed with a great family on my mom's side and my dad's side. Not a perfect family, but a great family. And my parents were teenagers when they had me. My mom was 17. My dad was 19. They had dated all through high school. I think my mom was in 8th grade when they started dating, I believe.
Okay.
And so I don't have many memories of my mom and dad being together, like us being a family. They divorced finally when I was about 3. I have little tidbits that I remember, but not, I think I was about 5 or 6 when they finally parted ways for good. You know, they were kind of like back and forth even after they divorced.
Was your dad also an addict?
Not that I knew.
Okay.
So, stories, of course, that I've been told as I got older was that he was in active addiction then. But again, it's nothing that I can speak to that I know for sure.
Right.
And he's never told you that?
Right. No.
Okay.
So I had, and I feel like my grandparents felt that they were trying to let my parents live out their adolescence and kind of take the responsibility of me, which, like I said, I had a great childhood. My grandparents made sure I had everything I absolutely could need, want, probably a little too much. It was a running joke in my family that my feet didn't hit the floor until I was about 5.
So they carried you?
Yes, I was very spoiled, very spoiled.
You've got a brother?
Yes.
Who's older?
So I'm the oldest. So
Okay.
I'm the only child between my mom and my dad.
Okay.
There's a 10-year span between my next brother. So I have 3 brothers, a sister total, but those are between my dad and my stepmom, my mom and my stepdad.
Okay.
So going back a little bit, like I said, my mom's family lived in Baldwin County. My dad's family lived in Santa Rosa County, Florida. My dad's side of the family, very wealthy. They were one of the biggest home builders in, the Panhandle. My mom's side, my grandpa came from a very prominent farming family in Baldwin County. So both sides of my family were very well known in the community.
Which sets of grandparents did you live with?
So I kind of was in between both.
Oh, both. Okay.
Yeah.
You were everybody's little princess.
Yeah.
So when I was younger, I was kind of back and forth. Again, I would be at one grandparent's, this weekend, and the others the next weekend, and summers, and, just kind of back and forth.
Did the grandparents pretty much, they just communicated about you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It was like parents passing you instead of grandparents. Okay.
And again, looking back on it, and I don't know what it was, but my dad was in the picture less than what my mom was, but I always seeked my dad's approval. I always was looking for the relationship with him. I carried some kind of resentment towards my mom at a very young age. And I can't really pinpoint why. It's not like I wasn't mistreated. Nothing like that. I don't know if it was just that I was longing for that relationship. And like I said, with my grandparents, I think that they thought they were doing the right thing, but just making sure that I was taken care of and, provided for, and just kind of letting them do their thing. But I think it also hindered us forming that mother-father-daughter bond.
Sure.
Right.
So,
somebody else was doing the hard things.
Exactly. Yeah. So I remember, after my parents split up, I think I was like 4 or 5, and my mom got her own apartment, and we lived there. I lived there. It was just us two. But I had this red going to grandma's suitcase, and we would get in these arguments. Like, what does a 5-year-old argue with their mother about, and I really couldn't tell you, but I remember I would pack that suitcase with all my stuff, put it by the front door, and I would call my papa, who was my dad's dad, and he would drive all the way from Milton, Florida to Loxley, Alabama.
Wow.
Come pick me up, no questions asked, nothing, and my mom would let me go.
Not even argue.
Kind-hearted, but not a lot of really good boundaries.
Exactly,
there. Yeah.
exactly.
So was your mom living with the one set of grandparents with you? Was she in that house with you?
No, we had our own apartment at this time. She had her own apartment. Again, I know she lived with them briefly at times.
Yeah.
She did have other relationships, after my dad. Again, that time, I always remember being with my grandparents. That's what the majority of my memories are from.
Why do you think she didn't even say anything whenever you would call him to come get you?
I don't know. I don't know if it was she just didn't want the fight of it.
The conflict.
Again, and 2, she was still young.
Yeah.
So I don't even think she was 21 at the time. Or maybe, she was 21, because 17, she's about 22, 23. She was partying, going out with her friends. Still living that lifestyle. And I do know from stories I was told that, her and my dad did use together. So this was after my dad. So of course she was probably still using that time, or at least drinking and going out. I knew she did that, And so I was always at
Back
one
and
grandparent to the other. But I wasn't sad. I wasn't like, oh, where's my mommy at? They kept me entertained. They kept me busy. And they literally showered me with whatever I wanted.
I'd want to go there too.
Be sad. Yeah.
I mean, and honestly, and looking back, and again, that carried with me through my adulthood. I was accustomed to a certain way of living. I was accustomed to certain things.
You were accustomed to getting your way.
Yes,
I know. I'm familiar with that.
Absolutely. So, even though they thought they were doing what was best for me, it kind of hindered me in multiple ways,
It sets us up for false expectations of the rest of the world.
Oh, definitely. Excuse me, sorry.
Yeah, and I don't want to get bogged down here, but I'm still thinking of the comment you meant that you had a resentment towards your mom from a young age that you can't quite pinpoint. I'm still trying to get a feel for how much interaction were you lived between your two grandparents most of the time, but I take it since your mom had this apartment, there were times that you lived with your mom?
I did.
And did your mom put kind of boundaries on? Did she try to be a mom?
I had an 8 o'clock bedtime, that kind of thing. But I do remember she always had people over. Yeah. So it was that kind of thing. I do remember witnessing a friend of hers, and I still remember this lady from, now, her boyfriend breaking in our apartment and assaulting her, things like that. And so again, I don't know if it was just, there was different dynamics in each situation I was in, whether I was at this grandparents, that grandparents, with my mom, my dad, very different dynamics all the way around. I felt like I could never be me. I was having to play a role everywhere I went.
Yeah.
And then like my Nana, who was my mom's grandma, she's very proper. Like she would tell me, Kristyn, your reputation is everything. Like what goes on behind closed doors, you keep behind closed doors. But when you walk out that door, you do with a smile and your red lipstick on.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then my dad's side of the family, again, they were wealthy, but they were more, it was kind of like country wealth, you know what I mean? Like we had hundreds of acres, and my grandpa did fox hunting, and we were always on horses and four-wheelers and, out in the truck in the field and, this kind of thing. And then, when I did see my dad lived at the beach. So when I went down there, it was beach, it was high class, it was, you wore certain things, you acted a certain way. It was like I never could be comfortable as myself. I don't
know how you would have any idea who you were at all.
Yeah. And two, this started when I was very young. And so moving past that, like I just did what was expected of me. I just kind of bowed down to it and played this role there, played that role there, and then just, went about my business.
What would happen if you didn't? Were there repercussions? Was it a strict family?
Not at all. Not really. It's just like, I guess it was like either the look or like the feel of disappointing somebody. I did not want to disappoint anybody or let them down or, anything like that. I was very much a people pleaser up until in my addiction. I was very much a people pleaser and would do whatever was asked of me without, regardless of how I felt about it. So,
yeah.
Just being the dutiful daughter / granddaughter, taking that baton and going. So
exactly.
It's interesting because, I'm stuck on that point, but I wonder, so when you would go visit your dad, it was literally visitation. You never lived with him.
Right. No, I never lived with my dad.
So that would be a long weekend, maybe a week.
Yeah.
Something.
And they were sporadic. Like it wasn't an every other weekend thing.
And it was at the beach.
Yes.
So
he had
I could easily see, right? So you begin to kind of fantasize what it would be like to live with dad, but we don't really know. And so and here's mom, as dysfunctional as she is.
Right.
Trying to be mom, which incorporates some boundaries. And as a young child, you're going to start to think, it'd be much better even though we don't really know, we fantasize it's going to be much better at dad's because, so I think it's just probably the time and, that you had.
I remember my mom would ask me, even as I got older, she's like, I don't understand why you hold your dad up on a pedestal, because I did.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't just me. Other people recognized it as well.
Because you filled in the unknown with your own fantasy, right? That must have been a great, I gotcha.
And there was definitely no love lost between the two of them, you know? It was a very toxic relationship to begin with. And then it just led to, the back and forth. And then finally, like I said, they separated ways, which was the best thing for, all of us.
Was it ever violent?
I don't. So again, I was told it was, as older, but back then, even there was other physical violence within my family, but I was shielded from that. Even when it came to arguments and stuff with my grandparents, I was never witness to any of that.
Did either parent ever tell you about it or talk about it?
So as I got a little bit older, it was kind of that back and forth. Like mom would be like, well, your dad did this and your dad's this kind of person. And then like just say I went and was talking to my dad about it. He's like, well, your mom did this. She didn't tell you this. So it's kind of like, that back and forth little bashing, it's like, well, no, she did this, he did that kind of thing.
How old were you when that was happening?
It started 6, 7, 8. And then again, all the way, up until, a few years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
So it was always kind of like the blame game,
I'm sorry.
No,
why, like you said that it was mainly between both sets of grandparents. You did go to your mom's, even if she was preoccupied. Right. But why was it few and far between and sporadic with your dad? If he wasn't in active, like what was he doing?
Again, he was partying. He was young still, and he had a roommate. And I really couldn't give you an exact answer to it. I would see him on holidays, that kind of thing. And then we started having more time together, even me and my mom and me and my dad separately, of course, when they both remarried. So they both remarried when I was 9.
Okay.
So what's happening school-wise, right? Because you're bouncing all over. What's
straight
happening?
A's. So I remember kindergarten. I started out in Pensacola because that's where we were living with my dad. This is one of the times she went back. So I started kindergarten over there. And then I remember a time where she was driving me from Pensacola to Baldwin County every day to go to school because she wasn't going to pull me out because she already knew it wasn't going to last. So she wasn't going to pull me back out, And then, I remember driving from Pensacola to Baldwin County to school every day. But I made straight A's. Like I made my first B, I think, 7th grade.
So you were really performing, right? I mean, it's good. You obviously very intelligent too, but I would assume some of that too is being that dutiful daughter, granddaughter.
People pleaser attitude, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I am super curious about when things start to take a turn for you because this is you're really building quite a box for yourself, right? As this kind of. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming there was probably some peacekeeping elements to this, right? I guess I can imagine a little girl thinking, well, if I can just be perfect, some of this chaos around me will get better.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And I think too, looking back, I was always like, well, what can I do to make things better?
Fix it.
What can I do? Exactly. Definitely. And again, that fix it mentality led all the way through my adulthood with my relationships, So that was definitely present.
What do you think you may have been wanting to fix, like your parents together?
I don't know if it was necessarily, I did strive for a little while for that family dynamic, mom, dad, kid, thing, because my grandparents, again, had been together. My mom's parents had been high school sweethearts, married right out of high school, been together up until they passed away. A few years ago, they did separate for a little while, but for the most part, they were together. My dad's parents got together, and they were together, 30-something years. So I think it was just something that I wanted. I wanted that family dynamic.
Sure. Yeah. So again, I'm kind of curious, where does this start to take a turn for you? Like, where does that...
So, like I said, my parents both remarried when I was 9. Now, just to give you a little context, my stepmom and my mom's family lived across the street from each other. Like, where my grandparents lived and my mom's family was on one side of the street, my stepmom's family, I could walk across the road and was there.
Oh, wow.
And again, they all went to the same high school, that kind of thing. So my dad remarried, my mom remarried. I struggled with my dad's relationship a little bit more. And I think back then I thought it was my stepmom's fault, the situation between me and my dad. And I put that on her, But looking back as an adult and everything that I've been through with my dad, I feel like it was him as the whole, and he was just letting me, put it on her.
Blame her.
My relationship with my stepdad, was amazing. So sorry.
It's okay.
I never felt like the stepchild. When introduced, I was his daughter. His family, I was their granddaughter, their niece, he was, and again, when my mom and him married, he wasn't but 21. My mom was 26. Sorry.
You're okay.
But he was an amazing gift.
You got the family dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. And even my dad's parents, absolutely loved him. Loved him. So, and again, me and my mom started having more of a relationship.
Yeah.
At that point, because I was with them. I started living with my mom. They got married.
Was this one of your mom's periods of sobriety, or was she still?
I believe it was, like, again, still drinking, kind of doing the, the friend partying thing on the weekends, but not like full blown,
More stable.
Right.
active, addiction. She was working. That's how she met my stepdad. They worked for the same company. They did get married quick, like within 6 months. But like I said, he was great. He was great. He provided for us. He was a great dad to me. And then again, I started spending more time with my dad as well when he married my stepmom. So I would go down there on the weekends and, we would do family things, but it just wasn't the same. And again, they lived on the beach and, we would go to these restaurants on the weekends and, bars and that kind of thing. Back then, you could bring your kid in there to a sports bar and, have some drinks and watch the game. And, that was kind of like my dad was into deep sea fishing. We'd go out on the boat on the weekends. Down there, it was a 42-foot Hatteras. Up here with my parents, it was a bass boat. That's the dynamic of it all.
Yeah.
So still trying to play that part a little bit,
Yeah.
But again, my stepdad definitely was a godsend to me and my mother.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What a bright spot in the story, though, right? It's nice to see tears of joy.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So are you sliding into high school now?
I am. So middle school, now I'll tell you this, middle school is the first time, so I started smoking cigarettes, not that it was, I had a nicotine addiction. It was the cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And I remember it was my 13th birthday. And that's when they had the lock-ins at the skating rink.
Yeah.
And we were around back, me and some of my friends out there smoking some Marlboro Reds or something like that. And my mom works around the corner. We had a family member pass away, and she was coming to pick us up early. And so I was grounded.
Did you know, or is this?
No, I did not know.
You're about to find out.
Up until that point, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, she busted you smoking.
She did, yeah. So I was actually grounded from my best friend for a year, like for a whole year. We could not see each other outside of school. And again, it was like, oh, Kristyn's this perfect little pea. Like, she wouldn't be smoking if somebody didn't influence her to.
It must be their fault.
Even though I took responsibility for my own actions, it was everybody else's fault. And so then we had got into a wreck on the school bus, and I'd hit my head on the glass and went to the doctor, and they gave me some muscle relaxers. But I remember sitting in 8th grade art class, passing out muscle relaxers, me and my friends just, and huffing expo markers, like, for whatever reason, just to do it.
Y'all were like 13, 14?
Yeah. And so just, little stuff like that. There was no need for it. It's just, I guess you'd say, experimenting on, things that were kind of circulating around, and like, oh, let's try this,
Yeah.
And then 8th grade is the first time I smoked weed. Some of my friends had older boyfriends. Some of my friends' parents were not as involved, I guess you'd say, in the chaperone part of things.
Yeah.
So we would go to those certain people, friends' houses on the weekends and just kind of do whatever we wanted to do.
At that time, was your mom, it sounds like she was pretty strict.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I got grounded. Like, I wasn't, I couldn't go to a friend's house that she didn't know. She'd have to talk to their parents, that kind of thing. So, again, it was that family dynamic, and that mom, I didn't want a friend. I wanted a mother, and I'd had that at that time. And so then, again, that's when I first started smoking weed, and it wasn't like I wasn't getting stoned on the way to school every morning and stuff like that. It was like a social thing, I guess you'd say. Just when I was around certain people, I never did it by myself, anything like that. So, and again, it was just around certain people that maybe had it. And it's not like I went out looking for it, or was like, hey, let's go, buy a dime bag or something like that. And so then going into high school, I still did really well with my grades. And probably 10th grade, started drinking on the weekends, going to parties, still smoking weed a little bit here and there, nothing major. And that's basically all I did throughout high school. Now, this is also the time I started noticing things with my mom. She had Blake and Cole at this point. There's 10 years between me and Blake. So say I was like 15, Blake was 5. Cole, there's 5 years between Blake and Cole, so he may not have even been born yet. But like I said, drinking on the weekends with my friends, smoking pot.
You said now you start to notice things going on with your mom, so you hadn't noticed up to this point?
Till high school?
Till high school.
Wow.
And even my friends, some of my friends would be like, Kristyn,
something's off with your mom.
On. Yeah. And so I started paying attention.
Do you think even a part of you maybe did notice something but didn't want to look at it?
Well, I did when I was younger. And again, let me back up just a second, just kind of give you. So before my mom and stepdad had my brothers and everything, their weekends consisted of, hanging out at the house or around a bonfire and sitting there, their friends coming over, drinking, whatever. It was that thing. And again, it was always kids there. Everybody would bring their kids. So we were always running around playing. It was never like, oh, they're over here doing their thing and we're over here in a corner by ourselves. Back then I thought it was normal for me to know how to play spades and mix a White Russian at 9 years old.
It
and
wasn't.
my parents were involving me. They wasn't, leaving me out. They were, just teaching me to play pool and throw darts.
That was normal to you.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was kind of like the dynamic then kind of growing up before, high school and all that. And then when I got into high school, I started to know some things. And then, so I had friends that had either older brothers and sisters or parents that went to school with my mom, or, they hung out in the same circles and this, and then they're like, oh, your mom's doing dope. No, not my mom. No, and they were like, yeah, she came over to such and such the other day. And, this is what happened, no. So then I kind of started paying attention. But then I did realize, too, as when I was younger, and then friends would be over, locked doors, people behind those doors, and I'd go to walk in, the door be locked, or, things like that I started remembering from, years prior.
Sure.
And so I was like, well, So then her and my stepdad started having problems. They would get into, physical fights. And my mom, we have very strong-willed women in our family. My mom can be a force to be reckoned with for sure. But again, it started that whole, family kind of drama thing, drama and trauma. And so my junior year of school, and again, me and my mom really weren't getting along at this point. I was staying more and more with my grandparents. I'd ask my grandma, I'd say, hey, call mom and see if I can come stay the night. Tell her you need help with something, just stuff like that. And she would. And I don't think they really knew. I think they were more or less in denial of what was going on, because at this point, kind of like my stepdad and my mom were doing the blame game with each other. Oh, he's doing this. Oh, she's doing this. And so my junior year of high school, I would go pick up my brothers, and I would take Blake to school. Cole was 3. He wasn't in school yet. And I would just keep him for the day, and I would miss school. Well, and again, there was days that I skipped school on my own, but I missed 64 days of my junior year. Was sent to truancy court. My uncle, which was my grandma's brother, worked at the sheriff's office in Bay Minette, and he met me and my grandma in court. And again, it's supposed to be my mom in court with me, but my grandma was there, Again, she had that fix-it mentality too. And so it just happened to be the day before I had left school with some friends and smoked a joint, probably the first joint I'd smoked in months. And the resource officer, whoever it is, he said, "Can you pass a drug test?" And I said, "No, sir." And the disappointment on my grandmother's face, I will never forget it. Never. And so we went in there. The judge was not nice at all. And he's like, "You're at the end of your rope." He said, "I could send you to a girl's home right now." But he didn't. And they put me on probation. So my whole junior year and the whole rest of my junior year and senior year, I got called out every Tuesday from my class in school. And there was 3 other students, that got called out. We had to meet with our probation officer. I could not miss a day of class my whole senior year unless it was approved.
That had to be a complete rude awakening.
Oh, yes.
From how you have lived your life up until that point.
Yes. And now, keep in mind, through all this, I still had excellent grades. I don't know how, but I did.
I'd like to take a moment to recognize a major podcast sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by America's Thrift Stores, your go-to option for decluttering and giving back. If you have a closet bursting at the seams or a garage that's seen better days, we've got the perfect solution for you.
That's right. America's Thrift Stores makes it easy to clear out the clutter and make a positive impact in your community. Whether you're cleaning out your wardrobe, downsizing your living space, or just looking to give back, America's Thrift Stores has you covered.
And here's the best part. You've got options. Schedule a hassle-free home pickup, drop off your items at one of their convenient donation sites, or swing by an America's Thrift Store to donate in person. No matter which way you choose, you're making a difference.
Absolutely. Every donation you make to America's Thrift Stores directly benefits charities in your area, such as the Home of Grace and other fantastic organizations dedicated to helping those in need.
For example, donations made to America's Thrift Stores in southern Mississippi help the Home of Grace provide support and assistance to individuals facing drug and alcohol addiction. Your contributions make a real impact on their mission to provide freedom from addiction through Christ-centered recovery. So not only are you decluttering your life, but you're also helping build a stronger and more supportive community.
It's truly a double blessing. So what are you waiting for? Clean out that closet, clear out that garage, and make a positive difference in your community by donating to America's Thrift Stores.
Visit America's Thrift Stores online to schedule a home pickup, locate a donation site near you, or get directions to one of their store locations.
America's Thrift Stores, where giving back never goes out of style.
So every Tuesday I get called out. And of course everybody knows why everybody's getting called out of class on a Tuesday, morning at this time to
Tuesday's
go sit in the cafeteria.
days.
Yeah. So mine and my mom's relationship became really strained. My senior year, I went and I told her, I said, I want to go live with my dad. Now, at this point, mine and my dad's relationship had gotten better. Again, it wasn't like I'd go see him every other weekend thing, but he was more involved, not as involved as I would like him to be. Or I guess, too, he may have thought it wasn't that important to me for him to be that involved, but it was, deep down, but I didn't voice that to him. So I did. So I told her, I said, I want to go live with my dad. And, of course, she didn't like that at all. So my senior year, I finished at my dad's. He supplied me a vehicle. I drove back and forth from Orange Beach to Robertsville every day for school so I could finish out my senior year with my friends.
Now, have you stopped using this whole time for the fear of consequences with the court being involved?
Yes. Okay. Again, I was still drinking here and there on the weekends, with my friends, but nothing.
You were going to make sure you could pass a drug test.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And back then they didn't really test for alcohol, like they do now. And so I finished my senior year out at my dad's, but I still never felt like I fit in there. And so it was probably like maybe 2 weeks after graduation, and I had already turned 18 and I left. And I moved to Milton to my other grandparents.
Are you done with probation now?
Yes,
then?
yes. As soon as I graduated, I was done with probation. And so I moved to Milton with my grandmother. At this time, my grandmother and grandfather over there were separated. They had been going through some stuff. Again, there was some domestic violence involved, but nothing that I was ever witness to. Yeah. Again, they still were right there. You know, anything I needed, they were right there. And so I was there. Let's see, I was working for my grandpa, just cleaning new construction houses, that kind of thing. I worked for a daycare over there too. I was there during 9/11, so 2001. And then I'm trying to think exactly. Again, I always came back. Like, you know, Baldwin County was my home. No matter where I went, how far I stayed, or how long I stayed, I always came back. So I decided, well, I'm going to come back home. And I did, and I lived with my grandparents. And so I reconnected with a group of friends that I had from high school. And that's when we all experienced like a lot of firsts together. That's when meth became real prominent in Baldwin County, especially the anhydrous, you know. So our friends, there was a group of us. Some of them rented this mobile home right here, right down the road. You know, another friend had a mobile home in the back of her parents' property. So we were either there or there. So we, you know, tried meth together for the first time. I tried ecstasy together for the first time.
Now, had you been sober all the time with your grandparents in Florida? And
yeah.
You come back, meet up with these friends, and now we're off to the races.
Yes.
Okay.
Probably the only thing I did while I was over there was maybe, you know, drink a glass of wine or, you know, something like that. So we started partying heavily. There was times we would all sit in this room, pass around the pipe, and be in there for days, you know, at a time. Again, it wasn't something I couldn't put down. Like, it wasn't like I had to wake up and be like, oh, I got to do this, or I can't function through the day. It was definitely something that was, for me, more of a social event, I guess you'd say.
Recreational at this point.
Yes. But that went on for about a year. And then...
where was your mom during that time?
So my mom, I want to say at that time... So her and my stepdad were still together. I think, they had built a house. They were living in this new house. And I think she had talked about it on her episode. And we had a hurricane, and they had a power surge, and it burnt to the ground. So she was, you know, they were still together, and they had the boys. But again, their relationship wasn't like it used to be. It was very strained, very strained. I think they were both using at this point. Again, my stepdad never let me see that side of him, you know. Mine and my mom's relationship was kind of almost non-existent at this point. We couldn't be in a room together more than a few hours. It was, you know, again, we were doing that blame game too. Because I would call her out and she would deny it till the end. And then, you know, and my grandparents too, they were my mom's cheerleader. You know what I mean? Like
enablers, probably,
exactly.
Right?
Well, they enabled both of us, you know. She could do no wrong in their eyes. And I get that, you know, that's their daughter, but she could do no wrong. And they were that way with me when I started going through my stuff too. So So then, I started hanging out with my friends, started doing this, doing that. So it's about a year of the meth use, and I was, I don't know at what point I was just like, done with it. It kind of just happened, I think. People started moving away. Our kind of group got smaller and smaller. And then, so in high school, I didn't date a lot in high school. My friends used to, it was a joke. They're like, you're too picky. Like, you need to lower your standards a little bit. Well, boy, did I. Got one fresh out of county jail.
Oh, yeah.
So I met my husband. We had went to school together. Previously, I think he had dropped out in 10th grade. Again, I was like in that partying phase still, not necessarily doing the meth and stuff, but, smoking weed here and there, drinking was major, basically the main thing. I had my own apartment at this time, and, he showed me attention,
Fresh out of jail.
Fresh out of jail, yeah. And so,
what was he in jail for?
Attempted murder. So him and his brother got into a fight after his grandpa died. His brother held him down on a stove. He had a perfect stove ring imprint in his arm. And there was a handgun laying on the table. And he shot it, ricocheted off the refrigerator, and nicked his brother in the side. So they had charged him with attempted murder. His brother never testified against him, so they dropped it down to an assault third. So, great judgment.
Were there drugs involved in this family as well?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, like my mother-in-law, which had soon become my mother-in-law, she, that whole family was nothing but drugs. It started for them at a young age, and that went back to my fix-it mode. Like, I saw the potential in him, and I tried to make him be somebody that, not that he didn't want to be, but that he just couldn't get out of his own way. Yeah. Because he did have problems, and I think that's what I saw in him. He was very good to me in the beginning, and
it's always good in the beginning.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I had my first son in October of 2004. And we were living...
Were you guys married at that point?
We were not married at that point. And so I had him, and then a year later to the day, I had our daughter. So that's... After I had my daughter is the first time that he hit me. And going back to that, I had found out later that after I had my son, he's being very helpful during that time. And he would bring me my medicine in the morning. Like they had me, I was on blood pressure medicine and this and that and my birth control and, and kind of find out he was replacing my birth control with water pills. And that's how I got pregnant with my daughter. And he had the mentality of, because after my son was born, I was kind of like 1 foot out. Like I started seeing how he was becoming very possessive and jealous. And, I had to grow up after I had my son. Like I had to grow up quick, and he was still doing stupid stuff. Yes. Yeah. He wasn't working. Like I was the only one working. I was actually working at the sheriff's office at this time. I was working in docket and Bay Minette. And so
again, a drug-free time for you at this point? Or?
Oh, yes. So then I had my daughter, and my grandpa had actually bought us a townhouse in Robertsdale, and we moved in it. Like he charged us $300 rent, I think it was. Still, I was the only one working. I was taking care of 2 kids. I was having to take them to daycare and pay that extra money because I couldn't trust him to wake up with them,
To watch them.
Yeah. His drug of choice was methadone and Xanax. His mother, which was, my mother-in-law, she was on the methadone clinic for like 25 years. His brother's, heavy into everything. So,
are you frustrated and angry at this point at him?
Yes. So
because it's interesting because you're not married yet, and yet you said your first husband, so there's a marriage still coming to this guy.
Yes.
That's interesting.
So at this point, I told him I wanted him to leave. And
this is after he hit you?
No, this is leading up to him hitting me. So I wanted him to leave. And I told him, it wasn't working. Basically to the point of I can do bad all by myself,
I don't need any help from you.
And so, and he did. That's the first time, he open-handed slapped me. I called my grandma to come down. I was like, please, help me make him leave. He's like, you can't make me leave. I live here too. My cousin was a cop in Robertsdale. He came out, and legally we couldn't. He lived there. They were telling me, the other cop that was there that didn't know the situation, he's like, well, you can take your kids to the lighthouse, and
Is the lighthouse a shelter?
Yes.
Okay.
And me being like, no, this is my home, my kid's home. I paid the bills here. Absolutely not, And my grandma, I know she was trying to help, but she was kind of making things worse. So I was just like, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. I did not take care of it, Of course, after everything settled down, he's like, I'm so sorry.
It'll never happen again.
Yeah, it'll never happen. I'll never do it again. I love you. I just want to make this work. I got so mad because I love you and I want us to be a family. And I wanted that. I wanted us to be a family. I wanted that family.
Still wanted that family unit.
Yes. And so then things would be okay for a while. And then it just spiraled. It just spiraled out of control. And so
the physical abuse?
Yes.
Still before marriage?
Yes. So he had been arrested 3 times on domestic violence. And they kept letting him back out. One time his bondsman literally bonded him out and dropped him back off at our house.
Gee.
He broke in the front door and beat me again. So finally I got to the point, well, I'm going to take care of this on my own. Like, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to do my day to day and just let it be. And 2, I did not want to get my family involved. Partly for the I told you so, because they did not like him one little bit. Secondly, I know what my grandpa would have done to him if he knew he was hurting me like that. And I did not want to put that on my family. Even my friends, I lost so many friends because of my situation, because the one time I did leave and go to a friend's house, he found me. I mean, he knew where all my friends lived,
So how in the world do we get from here to marriage?
So in 2009, he was arrested for possession. 2007, he was arrested for possession, went to jail, was put on drug court, was doing well. I got out, sober, doing well, doing all the things he's supposed to do. I was letting him spend time with the kids, doing everything he needs to do then. And so it was about 7 or 8 months maybe of this, And again, my relationships with my mom, even my dad at this point, were not very great. I was just looking for that
family.
And
he's doing great.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, this is him showing me that this is what he wants, And we did.
He's changed.
Yeah.
That's how we got there.
All of 8 months.
He's fixed.
So, and we did. We got married at the courthouse.
Did any of your family come?
Oh, absolutely not. They didn't even know till after the fact, till they saw my wedding band on my finger. Yeah.
How'd that go over?
Not really well. And also, now let me let me backtrack just a little bit too. My grandfather on my mom's dad, very old fashioned. So after my daughter was born, before we moved into the townhouse that he bought us, we had told him that we were already married. He did not believe in shacking up
Right.
before you're married. So in his eyes, he already thought, but he didn't know everything that was going on either. He didn't know anything with the abuse or the drug use or anything like that at all. So, and again, we weren't living with them, so he didn't see anything else. And my grandma wasn't going to tell him either because, again, she knew what he would do.
Right.
I mean, like when I say old-fashioned, he's old-fashioned. When he saw my first tattoo, he did not talk to me for 6 months.
Wow.
And I lived with him. Like, I walked in the back door every day to him sitting in his recliner, and he went straight to the TV. He would not look my way.
So, Kristyn, let me interject and ask a few questions because we're going to have to sketch a few spots here. So you get married. How soon after does the physical abuse start again? Because I'm assuming that's...
Yes.
Yeah.
So it wasn't long.
Yeah.
It was like he got me where he wanted me, and now it's back to his old ways. He actually, not long after that, violated his drug court. The judge sentenced him, I think, 3 months, 90 days, something like that. He did his 90 days. During this 90 days, I was done. I was done.
Really done.
I talked to my dad. My dad developed subdivisions in Baldwin County. I got a job at a college in Orange Beach in the registrar's office. Like, I was getting away from it. I was, getting my life back in order. My dad called me. He said, "Hey, come out here, pick you out a house. Brand new 1,800 square foot house." So I did. Picked me out a house. My dad let it, me and the kids move in and didn't have to pay any kind of mortgage or rent, just had to pay all the utilities. And this was the end of 2008. And so we did that. So he got out of jail and somehow found out where I lived, and nobody really knew except my family. But he can be very resourceful. There was times that I left, I would go stay in a hotel.
And he'd still find you?
And he'd still find me, yeah. So he broke in my front door, pulled a gun on me in front of the kids. I called the sheriff's office. This was down County Road 12 in Foley, which is a long road. Like, it's kind of like on the outskirts, so it's not like in the city. So it took them a while to get there. They get there, and all he's saying was like, "This is my wife. This is my wife." And they're like, "So what?" He, the cop came in and he said, "He's got all this candy in his pocket." He's like, "I'm gonna leave it here." Well, anytime he's on methadone, he would eat candy like crazy. So I was like, "Hold on just a second." So I walked out to his Jeep that was in my name, popped the hood, in between the battery and a rag, there was like 30 methadone wafers and like a half ounce of weed.
You knew his spots.
Yeah, and I told that, I said, because I wanted him to be gone. Like, I wanted to make sure, because he was still on probation, I wanted him to be gone. And I said, "I don't want to be responsible for anything on my property. Here you go." And he's steadily in the back of the car going, "Kristyn, what are you doing?" Kristyn, like, he knew where I was going. So they charged him with burglary, possession of burglary tools, possession of, the narcotics, controlled substances.
So he goes away.
He goes away. So, and again, like, this boy could get out of jail like nobody's business. I never could understand it. They gave him a bond. And I don't know, I still to this day don't know who got him out. But I had, and this is a couple months later, that he was in there for a couple months.
Yeah.
And at this time, the big 2008 economic crisis happened,
Yeah.
But my dad being a
Housing,
general contractor.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so my house that I lived in, the bank probably took ownership of it. So I had to move out. So then, me and my kids go back to my grandparents. So I'm driving from Loxley to Orange Beach every day to work. And it was probably about 4 months after he had been in jail that he got released. And I was at my grandparents' house, and my front, since I had been in high school, my front window to my room didn't lock. Like, that's kind of, where I would sneak out and stuff, and he knew that. And so, you could just be laying there and you feel somebody watching you.
No.
So I opened my eyes, and he was standing at the foot of my bed. Now, granted, my kids are in the room next to me. My grandpa slept with a CPAP machine, so my grandma would sleep on the couch most nights, which you could open my bedroom door and see to the living room.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what are you doing here? And so he sat down, and he was like as calm as could be. And he said, just tell me you don't love me anymore, and I'll leave you alone. I said, David, I don't love you anymore. And in a split second, he whipped me around, put me in a chokehold. All I remember was clawing at his fingers. And then the next moment, I wake up beside my bed. I had urinated all over myself. He was at the end of the bed crying. I think he literally thought he killed me. I was probably very close to it, the fact that, I kind of lost all my faculties, And the only thing I could say was leave. Please leave.
Wow.
Because again, and I knew if I would have made any kind of sound about it, my grandpa would have shot him dead right then.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that on them. I didn't want that on my children. I was just going to take it how I could. And then I remember just sitting there crying and just begging God, like I wanted him dead at that point. Like, just take him away. Like, get him out of my life. Well, take him away.
He didn't go away.
Yeah. And 3 days later, he was arrested and sentenced to prison. And he was in prison for the next 3.5 years. So that was that breakaway from him. So at this point...
So after those 3.5 years, he no longer makes an attempt to get back to you?
He would call. Like, I would change my number. He would write,
but never
stuff
show
like that.
back up
No.
at your, okay.
So by the time he was released, I was in another relationship, which was with Raymond, which is the father of my youngest son. During this time, and again, when me and Raymond got together, he had been suffering with addiction. He had been in trouble with the law. And so... The
second husband.
We never were married.
Yeah. Second father, though, was...
Yes,
okay.
Yes. So I started he started falling back into old habits, I started kind of dabbling with him. And I just remember, and he had been an IV user. And I just remember one day being like,
you were on opiates.
At this point I wasn't on any. The only thing I had been on was Xanax, like medically prescribed, but I took them like, as I was supposed to, yes. And so I literally went from taking Xanax to sticking a needle in my arm multiple times a day overnight. I remember asking him to do it for me because, of course, I didn't know how, and him being like, absolutely not. And I was like, well, if you don't do it, I'll find someone who will. And then that was absolutely not. And, but it's just that feeling took every ounce of everything bad that I was feeling away. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. Like, I did not feel any hurt.
Relief.
Any anger, any sadness. I just felt nothing. And it was the best feeling at that time.
Yeah. So is this the start of the 10-year?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And it went downhill quick. I went through tens of thousands of dollars in 6 months.
So you'd had a savings.
Yes, I did.
And that all goes out the window.
Yes. Lost everything within the year. I lost both of my children to my aunt. They went to live with my aunt and me, and it was actually their birthday. They have the same birthday, of course, and we were at a hotel room. We were staying in a hotel room, and his sister or somebody had called the cops on us, and we had been asleep, and they came knocking at like 3 a.m. and they were like, "Let me see your arms." And so I was like this, and I mean, I had track marks.
Yeah. Before we go any further, let's take a minute to address the man or the woman listening to today's episode and wishing for a better life. Or maybe addiction has completely overtaken a family member or a friend.
You are not alone. As you may know, the Jesus Loves Addicts podcast is produced by the Home of Grace, a Christ-centered addiction recovery program in South Mississippi with over 60 years of experience.
The Home of Grace has residential programs ranging from 30 days to 12 months. With 2 separate campuses for men and women, they are fully staffed with caring individuals who want nothing more than to guide you to a life of recovery.
Services include individual and group counseling, marriage and family counseling, classes, workshops, GED, and workforce training, all grounded in biblical principles.
And because of donations from the community, the cost of the program is incredibly affordable.
Thousands of alumni from across the country can tell you there is no other program in the world quite like the Home of Grace.
If you want to start a new path to recovery, don't wait. Speak with an admission specialist today. Visit homeofgrace.org or call 833-55-GRACE to talk with someone.
That's 833-55-GRACE. Call the Home of Grace today.
So I had to call my grandma, and that was the first time that she really knew what was going on with me. Yeah. And so my aunt came and got my kids, so they could go to school the next day. And after that, because even when I had them with me, like, they went to school, they were fed, they were bathed. Yes, they went places they shouldn't have been, and that. But once that responsibility was taken away, it went.
There was no restraints on you.
That was the point.
Yeah. So at that point, I started shooting up anything I could put in a needle, whether it be crack, cocaine. My DOC, my drug of choice, was Dilaudid. And so that, it spiraled quickly. And so then, we were using whatever we could get our hands on. Me and Raymond.
Oh, he's still okay.
We were using just whatever. We became very codependent on each other.
How are you supporting this habit now? Because you run through these tens of thousands of dollars, I guess, selling, or?
So we're just kind of hustling, really, just kind of selling to do this. Or
100% opposite of the life you were raised.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And then I remember it was one day, and I had did a shot of meth, and it made me, very sick. I was by myself. Extremely sick. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. And I did from that point. That was 2010. I did not inject meth, let's put it that way, since from that point from 2010. And then it was just strictly opiates. I didn't even smoke weed. It was strictly opiates. The majority of the time it was Dilaudid. That was my go-to. Then we found a doctor. And it was actually
that time period.
My ex-mother-in-law is the one that told me about him.
Where are you guys living during all this?
We were kind of living pillar to post.
Yeah, okay.
Staying one night at a friend's, getting a hotel, staying with his mom one night. There was times that I would tell my grandma, hey, I'm going to come stay the night, and I would sneak him through that same window that, my ex-husband snuck through and tried to kill me, things like that, just wherever we could go at that point.
And what year did you get pregnant with Brody?
2015. Yeah. So me and Raymond were together almost 5 years, about 5 years. So during this time, we went through it. We went through it. And then we got the doctor. And when I say doctor. I mean, I walked out there within 30 minutes with 180 Dilaudid, 90 Somas, and 90 Xanax. And Raymond went the next day, walked out with the same thing.
And they didn't care. They didn't ask for anything.
No. So at that point, you know, we were selling just as much as we were using, but we had got our own place, and I was starting to see the kids because we had our own place and we were working, but we were still using. But that didn't last long because, again, it went, you know, went downhill quick. And then in 2012, I had a tubal pregnancy that ruptured. Was rushed to the hospital. I was told if I wouldn't have got there within 30 minutes, you know, I probably would have bled to death. Was told I would never, ever, ever have kids ever again. And then I ended up getting pregnant with Brody in 2015. And just to kind of backtrack a little bit, during this 5-year period, I started getting in trouble with the law. I think money was an addiction of mine well before the drugs were. Checkbooks are not my friend. I would, write checks here, write checks there, do this, cash this for over, this and this and this, Sadly, I had stolen money from my grandpa, things like that, just to...
Those things that we said we never do that we do.
Exactly.
To those we love the most.
And, it broke his heart. He wasn't mad. It generally broke his heart, So Raymond had ended up going to prison during this time, and I was still using. I actually got in more trouble after he was gone than I did when he was out.
Theft and stuff. So
yeah. I started receipt shopping, stuff like that at Walmart. I would open up a bank account, keep it open for a few weeks, write a check from an old bank account, deposit it, withdraw it, do it for 3 days before they started coming back as insufficient, and doing that. So then I had caught.
Did you ever do any time?
Yes.
You did.
So when Raymond was in prison, because again, we had that doctor, and we had come up with some, and I don't even know why at the time, but we made them believe that he worked shutdowns. And so we were both on our medical release. I could pick up his prescriptions. He could pick up mine. So when he was in prison, I got a friend of ours to call, I knew his social, birth date, all that. I got a friend of ours to call and say, hey, I need to get my prescriptions filled. I'm coming into town. Yeah. I would go pick it up. We'd fill it,
Sure.
Good Lord.
So I actually had somebody tell on me because I wouldn't give them pills, And so they charged me with attempt to commit a controlled substance crime. I got put on drug court. Did not successfully complete drug court. Kept, just doing things my way, which we know doesn't work. And so then, on drug court, you'll go to jail for, a weekend or 7 days. And then, this. Well, when it came to the point of, hey, we're going to send you to prison or you do rehab or you do this, the judge told me, he said, you can either do a year in rehab or 180 days in the county jail. Well, I knew that you get your jail credit from all those little stays here and there during drug court. So I was like, well, how many days do I have left out of my jail credit? So I only had 55 days. So me trying to do it my way, I was like, well, no, I'll sit here for 55 days. I'm not going to rehab for a year. And so I did. I got to the point where I got real comfortable in jail, and that's not a place you want to be. I got to where I was like, well, let me just get my whites and my hygiene and I'll be just fine. Definitely not a good feeling. And then, so I did that, got put on state probation, messed that up a couple times, got sent to Tutwiler on a 45-day dunk. That's when they started the dip and dunk. So they don't actually fully revoke you. They just kind of send you to get a little taste of it.
A prison.
Yes. So I went to prison for 45 days.
A version of Scared Straight or something.
But I tell you what, there was more drugs
in there.
Yeah.
then there is
And you took
easier
advantage
access.
of them.
I did not.
Oh, you did
I
not?
was sober
Okay,
the whole
good.
time.
Awesome.
I was sober the whole time I was in prison. I was actually in prison with my cousin, and I just remember her walking around with a spoon in her back pocket, like a plastic spoon, because they would selling Suboxone strips, so they would break them down and snort them out of the spoon or whatever. And I just thought, like, how ridiculous she looked. And
I would be thinking it's a problem if I get to prison and my cousin's there.
Oh yeah, well we slept side by side. Yeah,
Like, not where I. Yeah.
yeah, and we were actually in the same dorm my mom had been in when she was there. So get home from that. I do well for a while, and then. Trying to think, let's see, me and Raymond reconnect, which was very short-lived, but during that time I got pregnant with Brody, and
Do you end up losing Brody?
no.
Okay.
So during this time, so I get pregnant with Brody. I was actively using when I was pregnant with Brody. My addict mom was like, oh, well, I'm just doing Dilaudid. I'm just doing a fourth of what I normally do just to keep myself well from being sick, because being sick would be worse on him than, doing this. That was what I was telling myself.
Yeah.
Not very good logic.
Yeah.
So me and Raymond part ways during this time. And then that's,
Was that an easier parting of ways than the last guy, or was he also?
No, Raymond was never physically
abusive, okay.
abusive. No. Okay. And like I said, we became very codependent on each other, and it was not, a relationship. It was, because it got to the point where we were both lying to each other. We were both using behind each other's back. Like, it just, it wasn't a good situation for either one of us. And then he began a relationship with Tiffany, who is now his wife. When they say they put people in your life for a reason, it may not make sense at the time, but I really believe God put her there for a reason. And even in the beginning, we were all using together. Like, what I'm saying? Like, they were together, but we were all using together. And they went through their own, situation and addictions and everything else, but it was kind of like, I feel like her taking the lead to go to rehab when she did, and then he followed, and then they were sober, and then that also allowed for me to get sober.
How?
So, and again, there was years between this, between them getting sober and me. So they got sober. They went to rehab, all that. And we did not really communicate for, several years. I was still in my active addiction. They were not.
They had your son, didn't they?
No.
Okay.
No. I had Brody. They did not have Brody at this time. They didn't have Brody until I went to rehab. And that was a mutual decision.
Yeah.
So it came about them, seeing Brody. I think it was facilitated with Raymond's sister. I think she reached out to me and was like, hey, can we see Brody? That kind of thing, which was fine. So they, started building a relationship with Brody. And then everything happened with my mom. She started using again and went to jail, and they got her into the Home of Grace. They paid her intake fee. So that allowed my mom, to start her journey on getting sober. And I remember, and again, I hadn't, sorry, let me back up just a little bit. I apologize. So in 2021, this is kind of when all this transpired. 2021, it was a big year. I label it as the beginning of the end. So in January 2021, I got into a horrific car accident. So I was on
using?
I was not high at the time, which everybody thinks I was, understandably,
Yeah.
But this is one time I was not high, but I was on my way to get high. And I was on my way to Mobile, and right before you go into the Bayway, There was a 7-car pileup. I don't remember exactly what happened. I'm thinking like maybe one of the trucks that were in front of me was maybe sitting idle because I didn't see their brake lights to the very last minute. So when I did, I jerked my wheel. It was a flatbed tow truck. The back right end of the flatbed tow truck came through my windshield and popped me right here in the face. So I had nothing but titanium.
It crushed your face,
yes,
from what I understand.
It obliterated my orbital rim, my cheekbone, my nose, and my top mandible were free floating. Knocked my teeth out. Broke my finger, I guess because where I was holding the steering wheel. I did not know any of this at the moment. Like literally the first thing I thought of when I stopped was I'm going to jail. Like that's what ran through my mind.
Right.
Wow.
I did not know I was
How bad
bleeding.
you were hurt.
So you weren't unconscious?
No, I did not lose consciousness till I got to the hospital.
Wow.
So I literally, the paramedic came around, and I guess he didn't realize it either. And then when I turned this way, his eyes got about this big around. And again, I have chronic anemia, so I don't have the blood in my body on a normal day like everybody else does. So he was asking somebody, he said, how far out is fire and rescue? Because like my whole side of my car was bashed in, And they were like, oh, there's 7 minutes out. I said, we don't have 7 minutes. And I said, I can get myself out. And he's like, no, you can have a spinal injury. I said, a spinal injury is the least of our worries right now. And so he got another guy to witness me saying I would not hold them liable, this and this and this. So I crawled myself over the gear shift, out of the car, walked myself to the ambulance, all the while not knowing my face is literally crushed and split open. Get in the ambulance. On the way to the hospital, I'm talking, but then I'm starting to gurgle like on my blood. It was January, so it was very cold, and they had cut off everything. So when they brought me out of the ambulance, that's the last thing I remember. When I woke up, I was on a vent. I was told that they had lost me 3 times.
You were clinically dead?
Yes, 3 times. And they brought me back. They had me on a ventilator, so I couldn't talk or anything like that. I was having to write on a notepad.
Yeah.
I never felt any pain.
Wow.
Never. Of course, they had me on lots of drugs while I was in there. And so I was in ICU, I think, for about 13 days. And then they moved me to the trauma hall. The whole time I was in the hospital, I would not look at I would walk backwards to the bathroom
to not see
myself in the mirror.
Wow.
It was during COVID, so my mom came, and then she could only be there for a certain time, and then they had to swap, and my dad came, and for the longest time I was unidentified, and I couldn't understand why, because my purse and everything was in the car, but my son was trying to call to find me. And he was giving him my tattoos and stuff like that, trying, and they couldn't give him. So my dad was at Women and Children's USA, and then my mom was at USA Trauma trying to find me. So they finally found me, but
God love them.
Yeah, so definitely would think that would stop you in your tracks,
but it doesn't.
But it didn't.
But it's the beginning of the end,
yes,
as you said.
Yes, everything that happened in 2021 led me here.
Yeah.
After I got out of the hospital, again, we live in a very vain world where appearances mean a lot. So here I am with these black stitches and staples down my face. This eye was swollen shut for a month. Just, completely wrecked. And, of course, I was put on pain pills. They gave me Percocets, but that's not what I wanted. So I sold the Percocets to get the Dilaudid.
Get what you needed.
It's just, a vicious cycle. Then, so I did that for a few months, just back and forth. Quit going to probation. All that. Had warrants out. Then, in June, we got a call that my ex-husband had overdosed on heroin up in Birmingham.
Dead or just
he was
in
on
the
life
hospital?
support. We were his last living family, or the kids, the kids were. And so we went up there, me and my son. My daughter wrote him a letter. We went up there and made the decision, like his pupils were blown, no reflexes.
Yeah.
Made the decision to take him off life support. But I was able to forgive him and let go of all of that pain. And that plays a big part in me being able to get sober.
Amen.
I look at it like he's finally at peace. He's not fighting those demons that he felt for so long. My son was able to make peace. The letter that my daughter wrote him was heartbreaking. But I read it to him, and we held his hand when he took his last breath. So I needed that. I needed that closure. I needed that closure from him. After that, 9 days later, my grandmother died. She had been battling with cancer and Parkinson's for going on 10 years. She passed away. And at that point, I was just numb to everything. I didn't want to be there. I did not want to live.
Yeah.
I got up every morning thinking, I'm never going to live a normal life. Things are never going to be any better.
This is all I'll ever have.
Yeah. So there was one night I was in my room, and I was done. And now Brody, he never got up in the middle of the night. Like he never, he was 4 or 5, so he's afraid of the dark, so he never would have got up and came to my room. And that night, I took a whole bottle of Xanax.
You were trying to kill yourself.
Yeah. And 3 minutes later, he knocked on my door. And he said, Mama, I got to go to the bathroom. And so, of course, I jump up. I go make myself throw up. I do all the things I can possibly do to,
Try.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't lay back down. Like, I started drinking coffee. Like, just random stuff. And again, it'd only been a few minutes, so it's not like, they had digested or anything like that. And the first time I ever told anybody that was in rehab with Mom. I never told anybody that after that. But I knew Brody came to that door for a reason. It was not my time. And so then after that, Mom was at the Home of Grace by this time. Tiffany was going to take Brody to see her. And I was like, hey, can me and Destin's my oldest son, I said, can we ride with you? She said, yeah. So we went over there. And again, me and my mom still haven't had much of a relationship at all. And I get over there and we have our visit. And I just remember leaving and I just bust out into tears. Like boo, cry. And so we got to the house and got out. The boys went inside and Tiffany's like, are you ready? And I said, I'm ready. And I had been using, daily, probably more than I've ever used up until this point. And I remember talking to Kathryn, and, she's like, you got to detox yourself, this and this and this. And I remember that's the one thing that I hate as many times as I tried myself at home to get sober, and I could not stand being sick. Like when I knew, hey, I could go 3 miles down the road and take all that away.
Well, yeah.
And so I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? And I was like, please just let me get through this. These next 3 days, do you know, I did not go through withdrawals at all in those 3 days. And I give that all to God right there. Like he knew I was ready. And so Tiffany came and picked me up, took me to the Home of Grace.
Paid that intake fee.
Yeah, she did. They paid that intake fee, and there I was. And I completed my 90 days. And again, during that time, me and my mom were supposed to be separated. She was supposed to be in phase 2. I was on phase 1. We caught COVID together. We were quarantined together. So God was like, yeah.
Y'all are going to talk.
Y'all are going to talk.
You're going to make peace whether you like it or not. And I think like right then, that's when it was a strict like 14 days.
Yeah. We were in there for a minute with a few others. And but it did. We needed that.
Yeah.
And in our sessions at the Home of Grace, she got to hear things that she's never heard before, and my perspective on things that I went through that she's never known.
Yeah.
And I got to work through a lot of stuff while I was there. Just the counseling alone helped me tremendously. Just working out all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So after my 90 days was complete.
Was this the first treatment you'd ever?
Yes.
Wow.
After the 90 days, I decided to move to the grad dorm. So I did that. And even then, I remember on my application to the grad dorm, because they say a year, I was like, well, I'm going to try 6 months. And so once I got over there, I got a job. I was working at a hotel right down the road, doing well. Brody was coming on the weekends to see me. Then I got a job at a church down the road, so I was a church secretary. And again, they all knew my story. Great group of people. They gave me a chance. And then I remember, so at this point, Mom had went back home, and I remember I had my first weekend visit, and it was Mother's Day. So I went home, and it was chaos. And not that my mom was using, but she was back in that
chaotic environment.
And at that house. And there's so much that went on in that house while we were both gone. People squatting there and just using, all that stuff. And they destroyed my grandparents' house. And so I remember, we got into like the first argument we've had in a really long time. And we both had that erratic behavior. And so I made the decision then. I was like, no. I was like, I'm not leaving the Home of Grace until I'm not in this environment anymore.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I went back. So in all, I ended up staying at the Home of Grace almost 15 months. Now, during this time, Kathryn and Shannon had been working, trying to get my legal stuff sorted out. We were hoping that they would recall the warrants and let me go, take care of everything. Of course, they would not. So at this point, it was like, well, I got to take care of this stuff. And actually, I had been going back and forth to Baldwin County to Brody's baseball games. He's been playing baseball. So I'd go to his baseball games. So one night I was leaving and I got pulled over. Had an active warrant, of course. Went to Baldwin County Jail. They released me within 7 days. They were like, oh, you had 2 months of probation left or you're done, I was supposed to have a hold for Santa Rosa County, Florida, and it didn't pop up. I was like, okay. So they released me. I went back to the Home of Grace. And I believe that was for a purpose too, because I was able to spend my first sober Christmas with my family.
Wow.
After that, my uncle had called me and he's like, hey, and he lives in Santa Rosa. He's like, you have a warrant for Santa Rosa now. And so he got me a lawyer. This is my dad's brother. He got me a lawyer, paid $5,000. I left the Home of Grace, went and turned myself in. Had to sit there for a hot minute. I was in there probably, I think it was like January to like right after Valentine's Day, so about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And went to court. And the judge was like, Judge Duncan was like, yeah. He's like, we're going to reinstate you. Reinstated me for 6 months. And then I was, be free and clear as long as I did those 6 months like I was supposed to. Paid everything off. By the time I was released from there, my mom had sold my grandparents' house and had moved up to Repton, which is where my stepdad and my brothers live. And so I went and stayed there with her for a little while until I found me a job. And so now I work in the construction. I mean, the whole family's in construction. Do what you know, right?
Yeah.
So I work for a construction company. I'm a permit technician. I just took my test for my roofing license. And I rent an apartment for my pawpaw, which, again, my family, both sides have always said, if you want something, you work for it. So I pay the same amount of rent that everybody else does.
Wow.
I think that's good for you.
Yes, I don't get any family discount, which, again, is
They're learning.
Yeah, he separates. Yeah, he now separates family, from business. So,
Sure.
We teach them.
Yeah. And so, I have regained my relationships with my kids. My oldest son, Destin, he lives with me. And then Brody, he just started school with me this year. He's been with Tiffany and Raymond for the last few years until I got settled, made sure where I was going was, where I was staying, because we didn't want him flopping schools. And
I love that they are, what I see is true co-parenting.
Oh, yeah. People, and she even does my hair. So Tiffany does my hair. Yeah, people are like, you let her do your hair? I was like, well, I trust her with my child, so I need the hair. Yeah. But we did. And again, it took us a while to get to this point.
So they're still sober. Your mom's still sober.
Yes.
But
we're all sober.
Isn't that awesome?
And, and again, like I said, it took us a while to get to this point, but we do. And again, it's about being that family unit. No matter how it looks, we're just that one big
What does your
family.
faith walk look like today?
So we are very active in church. I actually go to church at Pace Assembly, which is where I went to church with my great-grandmother when I was little. And Brody, he absolutely loves it. He goes to a faith-based school. So he just started West Florida Baptist Academy. He's gone to summer camp there the last few years, and so we made the decision this year would be the year he starts school with me. Yeah, so he started actually Wednesday. Yesterday was his first day. He loves it, and so everything is going amazing. And again, I have to watch myself sometimes because I want things to happen overnight, and I know they're not going to. And again, that aspect of material stuff, because I lost absolutely everything, so I'm having to rebuild, and I want that overnight too.
Sure.
And so I really had to humble myself and be like, in time, Kristyn. In time.
Patience is a virtue that I lack as well.
Well, and I think part of our recovery includes not forgetting those things.
Right.
Like remembering, especially for those of us that had it so easy.
Yeah.
I don't need anything to come easy.
Yeah. No.
It never worked well.
Yeah, I can honestly say everything I have now, I have worked for. It has not been given to me.
Yeah.
Now again, if I was in a bind and I needed help, my grandpa, would. That's not. But again, he comes around every Saturday after the first, collects rent.
Well, they all see you walking it out. I still think it's just, we talk so often. It's not that we're focused on the bad, but we talk about, addiction is a family disease. And like all the way across your entire family, I'm blown away. And you're still on this process to fix your
Yes.
It sounds bad because we joke and say fix your face.
Yeah, but no,
she's literally fixing your face.
So in my surgeons, I have a great surgical team.
You've had how many surgeries now?
So I've had 2 major surgeries. So it's completely obliterated my orbital rim. So before I had my last surgery, this eye was wide open. Like I couldn't close it or anything because all the nerve damage and everything. So they made a custom titanium plate, and they went back through this incision right here, which was my first and sit where I split my face open, put the plate there. I do have a plate over here, but it didn't do, the damage like it did here. Just kind of broke that bone apart a little bit.
Yeah.
They're using medical grade Botox to kind of help,
even it out.
Yeah, because this side is so relaxed. And then I had like Bell's palsy and all this. So they're going to put fatty deposits under my eye. They're going to do some threading to correct my nose a little bit. I do facial therapy to kind of rebuild that muscle and nerve.
You got teeth.
Yes, got my teeth. So it's definitely been a process. But when I had my surgery, my last one, which October was a year ago, and again, they're very aware of my situation.
Which is also important in recovery.
Yes. So after my surgery and recovery, they gave me just the IV pain meds I needed at that point and sent me home with 800 milligram ibuprofen.
And you made it.
And I did just fine. No pain, no discomfort. Nothing, I was good to go. So I still have a few little cosmetic things to do, but no major surgeries ahead.
Well, beautiful as is, only this time inside and out, Kristyn. And so thank you for, sharing your story, which has, really powerful and so many angles to come from. And so I want to remind the watcher out there to, again, if you haven't seen her mother's story, that is one of the other sides of this picture, and that's Star. I forget her last name.
Star Blackman. And in a couple weeks, as long as it works out, we'll be meeting Tiffany and Raymond.
Oh my goodness!
So that's going to be cool.
We're going to get we're going to be able to piece together the entire thing. But one of the things that kind of sticks out for me here, and I mean this gingerly and yet sincerely, is that there's a verse in the Bible. It says that bad company corrupts good morals, and there's something about your story that echoes through both sides of that coin. And sadly, sometimes the bad company that we are that's really out of our control to keep is our own families. And I want to stress that it says bad company, not bad people, right? They are broken people, but because of their brokenness, that can make bad company sometimes. And so Kristyn's story is one where she was surrounded by bad company as a child, but you could just see her heart, right? The grades, the perfect student, the trying to fix, but eventually the outside worlds and our inside worlds brokenness collides, and that's kind of what happened. But the reason why it came back to me is because I was thinking about that early on in her story, but then later in her story, the treatment that worked, she came out, and she even said it, I wrote it down, she came out and started to live in an extended living part of the treatment program that she was in, and she went back to visit her mother, and she made this decision: I'm not coming back here until it's not in this environment.
Not a chaotic environment.
Yeah. So she recognized that and changed her environment. Guys, if you're struggling with addiction, I'm just going to tell you that's so important. I know I've seen many addicts go back to old friends and family because it's almost like they shame themselves into it. Like, well, I don't want to be seen as holier than thou. I don't want to be. Forget all that. We're not calling them bad people. They're broken people, but their brokenness and your brokenness are bad company. You got to step away from that. You've got to step away from that if you want to have a chance. And so, guys, I bring that up for food for thought. I love your story, Kristyn. Thank you so much for sharing it.
So much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, amen. Guys, as always, we love you. More importantly, Jesus loves you, and we will see you next time on Jesus Loves Addicts.